Welcome to a Holocron of Theories,
our brand new Star Wars channel.
If you enjoyed our deep dives into the magical world of Harry Potter over on our other channel, well, you're in for a treat.
We're going to be exploring all the biggest theories, rumors, and news from a galaxy far, far away.
I'm Master Nolan, Keeper of the Holocrons.
And I'm Master Celia, Protector of the Archives.
And today, we're diving headfirst into some seismic Star Wars news. Kathleen Kennedy, the longtime president of Lucasfilm, is stepping down.
This is huge. This is a huge moment for the franchise. Kennedy's been at the helm for over a decade, overseeing everything from the sequel trilogy to the explosion of Star Wars content on Disney+.
So to kick off this deep dive, let's take a look at the legacy she leaves behind. Been massive box office successes, but also some pretty divisive films and shows.
It's definitely a mixed bag. On the one hand, you've got the sequel trilogy, which brought in billions of dollars globally. I mean, you can't argue with those numbers.
True, but you can't ignore the declining box office returns with each sequel. And let's be real, the fan reaction was, well, let's just say it sparked some heated debates online and off.
For sure. And then there's the Disney Plus side of things. The Mandalorian was a cultural phenomenon. Baby Yoda took over the internet. But other shows like The Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi had a much more lukewarm reception.
It feels like there's been a real inconsistency in the quality of Star Wars content under Kennedy's leadership. Some projects hit the mark, others missed the target by a parsec.
Yeah. And that brings us to this interesting timing. Kennedy's departure coincides with what feels like a potential turning point for the franchise.
Exactly. We've got The Mandalorian and Grogu movie hitting theaters in 2026, which is being touted as Star Wars' big return to the big screen after a bit of a hiatus.
And on the TV side, Andor Season 2 is generating a ton of buzz. It seems like there's a possibility for a fresh direction there, a move away from the Skywalker saga and into new uncharted territory.
So Kennedy's exit, right as these new projects are on the horizon, makes you wonder, is this a planned transition? Is this the start of a soft reboot for Star Wars?
It's certainly raising a lot of eyebrows. And of course, the big question on everyone's mind is, who will take Kennedy's place? The rumor mill is already in hyperspace.
The most obvious choice seems to be Dave Filoni. He's George Lucas's protege. He's been deeply involved in The Mandalorian and other Disney Plus shows, and he's a walking encyclopedia of Star Wars lore.
He's definitely a fan favorite, and his passion for Star Wars is undeniable. But there are also some concerns.
Like what? Spill the tea, Master Celia.
Well, some worry that Filoni might be a little too reliant on nostalgia. His work is packed with callbacks and Easter eggs, which is great for longtime fans, but can he create something truly new and exciting that breaks away from the past?
That's a valid point. He's got a knack for weaving in familiar elements, but can he build something entirely original? We've seen him excel within established storylines, but leading the entire franchise requires a different kind of vision.
And there's also the question of his live-action experience. Most of his work has been in animation. He's directed a few live-action episodes of The Mandalorian, but running Lucasfilm is a whole other beast. It's a massive job with huge pressure and responsibility.
So maybe Lucasfilm will go in a completely different direction. What if they bring in someone from outside the Star Wars bubble? Someone with a fresh perspective and a bold vision.
Now that would be a game changer. Imagine the possibilities. They could bring in a director with a proven track record in sci-fi or fantasy, someone who can inject new energy and ideas into the franchise.
Someone like Denis Villeneuve, who directed Dune. He's incredible at world building and visual spectacle. He could create something truly epic and mind-blowing.
Or what about Rian Johnson? He directed The Last Jedi, which was a visually stunning and ambitious film despite the mixed fan reaction. Maybe he's learned from that experience and could bring a fresh perspective to the franchise.
Those are some intriguing possibilities. And it just goes to show how wide open the field is. This is a chance for Lucasfilm to really shake things up, take some risks, and chart a new course for Star Wars.
It's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about all this, all these potential successors, it really highlights the enormity of the task ahead of them. Whoever steps into Kennedy's shoes is going to be facing some galactic-sized challenges.
It's true. The Star Wars fandom is as vast as the galaxy itself. And let's just say it's not always a united front.
Right. You've got different generations of fans, each with their own cherished memories and expectations. Then you've got the never-ending debates about canon versus Legends continuity, what constitutes real Star Wars. It's a lot to navigate.
And we haven't even touched on the pressure from Disney, the studio that ultimately holds the purse strings.
Yeah.
They're going to want to see a return on their investment, and they're going to have their own ideas about the direction of the franchise.
For sure. It's a delicate balancing act, pleasing the fans, appeasing the studio, while also trying to maintain the creative integrity of Star Wars.
And it's enough to make even a Jedi Master sweat.
And speaking of challenges, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the sequel trilogy. It was a box office behemoth, no doubt, but it also left a lot of fans feeling disillusioned.
It's interesting how those films became such a lightning rod for controversy. I think part of it stems from the fact that they were tasked with continuing the Skywalker saga, a story that so many people hold sacred.
Yeah, and they were following up on a beloved original trilogy that's practically ingrained in our cultural DNA. It was always going to be a tough act to follow.
Yeah, and plus you had the added pressure of social media, which amplifies every opinion and critique. It creates this echo chamber where negativity can spiral out of control.
It feels like the discourse surrounding the sequel trilogy has overshadowed some of the positive aspects of Kennedy's tenure. She expanded the Star Wars universe in ways we hadn't seen before, with new characters, new planets, new stories. The world building under her leadership has been impressive.
For example, think about the introduction of new Force-sensitive characters like Rey and Kylo Ren. They brought a new dynamic to the Force and explored its complexities in ways that the previous films hadn't.
Right, and let's not forget the visual effects and production design. The Star Wars films have always been known for their stunning visuals, and Kennedy continued that tradition, pushing the boundaries of what's possible on screen.
It's true. The sequel trilogy might not have been universally loved, but there's no denying the impact it had. It sparked conversations, ignited passions, and brought new fans into the fold.
And that's ultimately what matters. Star Wars is a living, breathing entity that needs to evolve and adapt to survive. It can't stay stagnant.
So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for Star Wars in this post-Kennedy era?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think we're going to see a shift in focus, a move away from the Skywalker saga and toward new stories set in different corners of the galaxy.
I think we're already seeing hints of that with shows like The Mandalorian and Andor. They're exploring new characters, new themes, and new timelines, expanding the Star Wars universe in exciting ways.
Yeah, and with Kennedy stepping down, there's an opportunity for a fresh perspective, a new vision for the franchise. It's a chance to experiment, to take risks, to push the boundaries of what Star Wars can be.
But it's also important to remember that Star Wars has a rich and complex history. It's a legacy built on mythology, archetypes, and timeless themes. Whoever takes the helm needs to honor that legacy while also forging a path into the future.
It's a tightrope walk for sure, but it's also an incredibly exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. The galaxy is wide open with endless possibilities.
And as we journey into this uncharted territory, we want you, our viewers, to be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. What are your hopes for the future of Star Wars? What stories do you want to see told? What characters do you want to meet?
Share your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below. We're building a community here at Holocron of Theories, and we want to hear from you.
Because ultimately, the future of Star Wars is in the hands of the fans. We're the ones who keep the Force alive.
It's funny, we talk a lot about the big picture stuff, box office numbers, leadership changes the future of the franchise. But sometimes I think we forget about what makes Star Wars Star Wars.
You mean like the characters and stuff?
Exactly. The human element, the heroes, the villains, the droids. They're the reason we connect to this galaxy far, far away,
Yeah, you're right. It's those characters that, make us laugh and cry and cheer. It's their journeys, their struggles that we relate to. Like, think about Luke Skywalker going from farm boy to Jedi Master.
Or Han Solo going from a cynical smuggler to a rebel hero.
Exactly. These stories are timeless and, they speak to all of us.
And it's not just the main characters either.
Yeah.
It's the supporting characters, the sidekicks, the creatures.
Like R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Right.
They're more than just droids. They're comic relief, they're loyal companions, and sometimes even like the voice of reason.
And you can't forget Chewbacca.
Of course.
And
Ultimate furry friend.
It's these characters and these relationships that make Star Wars feel so real, so lived in. It's what gives the galaxy its heart and soul. And it's what whoever takes over Lucasfilm needs to remember. It's not just about building a franchise, it's about telling stories that connect with people.
And that's a tall order these days, There's so much content out there, so many franchises.
How do you make Star Wars stand out? How do you capture that magic of the original films while also appealing to new fans who have grown up with, a totally different kind of storytelling?
I think it comes down to finding that balance between nostalgia and innovation. You need to honor what made Star Wars iconic, but you also need to push the boundaries, explore new ideas, introduce new characters.
It's like building a bridge to the future.
Exactly.
You need a solid foundation, but you also need a path forward.
And that path needs to be paved with good stories, engaging characters, and a sense of wonder and adventure. It's about, reigniting that spark of imagination, that belief that anything is possible in a galaxy far, far away.
So what does this all mean for you, our viewers? What are your hopes for the future of Star Wars? What kind of stories do you want to see? What characters do you want to meet? Let's share our passion for Star Wars.
Because the future of Star Wars is in our hands. It's up to us, the fans, to keep the Force alive.
And with that, we wrap up our first deep dive into the galaxy of Star Wars.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We did.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth discussions and explorations of all things Star Wars.
Until next time.
May the Force be with you.